All right. Hello, everyone. I'm back for more great conversations with our conference speakers. This is Marche Pratt. I'm the Vice President of Workforce and Community Engagement for NAMI California and one of the lead organizers of our annual statewide conference. And it's my pleasure to present to you yet another dynamic, inspirational, really fun person to talk to so you all can get a sneak peek of what you can expect when you come to our conference. So I would like to introduce David Woods Bartley. He's known as a dynamic speaker, storyteller, and trainer. With real life anecdotes that evoke laughter and tears, David informs and captivates audiences. Along the way, David provides insights that enable listeners to see mental illness from a different point of view, a
Mm,
fresh perspective that creates an opening for mental wellness for those who suffer, their family, friends, caregivers, and members of the community where they live, work, and fellowship. Through keynote and other group presentations, interactive workshops, and specialized trainings and seminars, not to mention a 3-time TED Talk presenter, David helps unravel myths and flat out lies surrounding mental illness. Once laid to rest, David substitutes fiction with truth and reality, and then equips audiences with tools and resources that lead to greater understanding. David's goal for each speech and workshop is always the same: to shed light on the issue of mental illness, teach others how to create hope, and open doors to the possibility of mental health for all. And those last three things perfectly align with NAMI California because we're all about hope. As we like to say,
mhm,
hope starts with us. We always want to make sure that we are inclusive of everyone when we say mental health is truly for everyone, those that are impacted by mental illness and those that are not. Mental health is for all of us.
mhm.
And also that it's important to not only talk about these subjects, but to help people understand and learn how to listen well. So that's what we're going to chat about today. I'm so excited, David. This is just so great to be able to talk about so many wonderful aspects of your background that I think resonate with so many different populations of people that we're trying to reach. So I
Mm,
thought I would just start with your military background. I know from my experience working in public health that oftentimes military veterans are some of our hardest folks to reach because many of us in the public health sector don't have a military background ourselves. And so sometimes when you don't have that same lived experience, it's hard to build a bridge to a population. So I wanted you to chat a little bit about how you got involved with the military and what that experience was like in terms of your mental health. How were you mentally before you became part of the military, and how were you after? How did those experiences shape your mental health?
and thank you, Marche. One, it's so great to connect with you again. And so just to clarify, I've actually not been a soldier or an airman or coastie. However, I have presented to, I mean, we might be pushing upward towards 100,000 different servicemen and women across the world. It's in the tens upon tens upon tens. And so to give you a little bit of why the military portion of my work is so sacred to me is that, so I'm the youngest of four.
Okay.
I have three heroes who are my brothers, and my eldest served 42 years in the Army. He enlisted way back in 1970, and by the grace of God, was not sent to Vietnam, and was sent
Mm,
to Germany, was an enlisted soldier for a couple of years and made his way to West Point, graduated in the class of 76, which is a very famed class for the number of generals that came out of
oh, interesting.
out of that class. And they were the last all male class. Can you imagine the incredibly heroic women that were what they call freshmen or called plebes in the class in when they came in 77. So my beloved brother worked his way up from the lowest rank of officer, which in the Army is a second lieutenant, all the way to a two-star general in charge of tens of thousands of people. So we lost our father. I was just 7. My eldest brother was 18. And really at that time, he became my dad. So I
Mm,
lived on post with him. I followed his career, was part of his career. And so when I had the first opportunity, so while I've never served in uniform per se, I lived the experience more as a child of an
mhm.
officer as opposed to an officer, but then have been literally across 4 continents and have been blessed to present, talk, counsel all 5 branches of military into the I don't know how many thousands of people, and so it's interesting. So I think the fact that my upbringing being what it was gave me, I don't know if it was credibility, but maybe it was a little something that allowed me to speak a little bit more their language in the
Mm,
military because I was so used to it. It is, we think you and I speak jargon. There's like jargon on
a whole
steroids.
nother language.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It is.
You
And
think it
there's a
was
certain,
you think it was your lived experience being a family member that
yes,
allowed
absolutely.
their hearts to open to what you had to say?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think, I think what shows, what comes out is I have really for me, what it is in serving the military, I get to serve my brother. You know, this man who it wasn't his responsibility to raise me, but Marche, he still plays we texted this morning, just like an hour ago. He still plays a pivotal role in my life. So I I feel to a certain degree that I don't know if I'm chosen, like there's anything special about me, rather than I have been granted this opportunity to provide a very different perspective than traditional training to a group of souls that I understand really well.
Yeah, wow. It's so wonderful that you listened to that voice that was telling you to speak out and to have conversations about these topics. You know, a lot of times it's our family business, and people, as my grandmother used to say, don't put your kids out in the street, don't put your family business out in the public. And so how has your family responded to you sharing your mental health journey with the world?
Incredible. They're just it's I know a lot of my brothers and sisters out there who suffer from mental illness are not afforded family support. And if that was on one extreme of reality, I have literally the other. That the amount of support, not just biologically, but by several degrees of separation in terms of the number of people that would not only support me, but would say, if there was a say, well, who's here friends with David Bartley? People would raise their hand
Mm,
because, and, and I take responsibility for that gift, knowing that a great many other people don't have that.
mhm,
And so for me, as it's, so I take 4 meds. This would easily be the 5th med that's most
mm,
important.
wow.
And, and it's probably of all the different adjectives that I could use, Marcia, it would be, it's acceptance.
Mm,
Just like, this is who our brother, our beloved, our bonus dad, this is who he is. This is what he deals with. This is what he does. He goes out and talks about this.
mhm.
What can we do to support him?
I really
It's amazing.
I really love that because you're right. So many people don't have that kind of support. And I love that NAMI steps in the gap and really is able to be that family, to be that support system when people don't have it, or to enhance the support system that they already have. You know, I heard a sociologist once say that if you have at least one good friend that you can trust and that cares about you, the chances of you living a full life, the chances of you wanting to live a full life are exponentially greater than if you don't have any support at all. And as I think about our mission to support people that are impacted by mental illness, I'm also thinking even broader about our overall goal as well to reduce the rates of people that are ending their lives, that are in a position where they feel that that is the last resort that they have to be able to cope, to be able to deal with so many pressures and stressors that are on them. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about your commitment to reducing the rates of. I know when I first read your workshop proposal, that the opposite of suicide is not prevention. Of course, that raised all kinds of little ping, ping, ping in my mind as a public health person background. I thought, oh, what does he mean by that? But of course, one of the things about people that speak for a living is that they always have provocative topics that make you want to at least step in the door and hear what they have to say. So I'd love for you to share with our
Right.
audience, what is your connection to the effort to reduce the rates of suicide, and has how has depression and other types of mental health conditions that you've dealt with really shaped your message?
So I think I'm gonna start at the back and come forward. I think, I'm 50, I'm 60, 62, 62. I'm
Get out.
62.
No
Yeah,
way.
no, I am.
I need to see some evidence. I don't think so.
I love you as I always have. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think I could do what I do without the lived experience of mental illness, of a suicide attempt, of horrific childhood trauma at the hands of a community leader. Not that and it's not about making sense of that. It's about accepting it and only with the help of other people and my participation as well to transform that into something of benefit, ideally to somebody else. And I'll be honest, I have long I'm gonna use the word, I apologize. I've hated the word suicide prevention. I don't like it. Well, it's a term.
What is it about it that bothers you?
So 2 things. 1, it's inherently negative because
Mm,
it brings up the problem. And for me, if I look at and here's where I think living 6 decades gives me a little bit of the right to say, as a species, we're no good at prevention. That's not our forte.
mm.
Stopping things from happening is not what we're not good at that. In any part of it. Not to say that we haven't had success, but I'm just saying, but I don't want to ever complain about something without coming up with an alternative. And so that's why this workshop is so near and dear to me because I was out walking my dogs. I have a golden retriever, Percy, and a pug, Lexi, who's right next to me to my right. Probably will be up here soon. And I literally all of a sudden, I'm going to call it a voice, said to me,
Okay.
they don't call it an anti-drowning jacket.
Mm,
They call it a life preserver. When we get in our car in just a little bit, whenever it is, we're not going to click on an anti-crash belt. We're going
mhm.
to click on a safety belt.
Got it.
They don't call it death insurance. They call it life
Life
insurance.
insurance, yes.
Then I said, "Oh my gosh, wait a second." And then I went because if I'm crazy about quotes and definitions because I don't ever want to throw out a term without defining it. So, dictionary definition of prevention is to intentionally stop something from happening. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm not super inspired per se. That's a little heavy, like, which is important. Do you realize what the definition of preservation is?
I've never looked it up, I have to be honest.
It's incredible. To take something of value and keep it safe.
Mm,
So I want us to move. Here's my big goal.
okay.
One day, before I move on to whatever the next experience is,
Mhm.
that the um, the National Alliance for Suicide Prevention changes their name to the National Alliance for Life Preservation.
Mm,
And see, ultimately, what it dawned on me is that's exactly what we're doing.
yes.
NAMI is endeavoring in the greatness that is NAMI to preserve life, not necessarily prevent death. Those are 2 different things. It's the difference between when you eliminate a negative and you add versus compared to when you add a positive. When you eliminate a negative, ultimately at best, you're back to 0. You don't have more than you started with. But when you add a positive, you have more than you started with. So when we preserve a life, that's ongoing. If we prevent a death, like, okay, we're safe for the moment. What about
Mhm.
tomorrow? Words are, of course, to me, is a huge thing. And so what I'm gonna ask people to join me, ultimately Anami to join me, is what if we engaged in what I call Operation Preservation?
Mm,
Like we're out to preserve life. Because I know in my heart of heart, people are going to be much more drawn to something with positivity as opposed to what is important yet has an inherent negative aspect. And if nothing else, it's something different.
mhm.
So I'm pretty jazzed about it. It's
Yeah.
I give credit to the universe because I could have never come up with this idea on my own.
Love the concept of preserving a life. and the fact that life has so much value, that it's so precious that we'll do whatever it takes. And one of the things that I appreciate about a life preserver is that typically when you're going out to rescue or to support others, they always tell you put your oxygen mask on first before you go and
Mm.
assist other people. And it seems to me that you're helping to do that for folks by giving them a different perspective, asking them to try on a different perspective, especially from your lived experience, what you've learned, not only in the longevity of your life, but of the different traumas that you've been through and that you've been able to manage your response to the point where you found a way to understand that your life had value and
Oh,
there was a reason for you to preserve it. There was a reason and a purpose for you to be here, for others. So I wonder if you could share with us how you got connected with NAMI, because I know you speaking at our conference is not the first time that you've been connected to a NAMI event or activity. So could you share with our listeners how you got connected to NAMI as an organization?
so I laugh because
Is
people,
it a funny story? Well,
well,
okay.
what's funny, it's funny in terms of how I started to speak because, um, my life, I was married. I been married twice, and as I tell people, I hit the jackpot both times. My first bride and I are still great friends. She's an amazing soul. And we ran the animal sanctuary that many of the stories that I tell are animal stories. And then my whole life came apart because of this un untalked about mental illness that I'd had for so many years. And I always quote Maya Angelou, who says, "There's no greater agony than bearing the weight of an untold story." And I had carried that story for close to 5 decades and was gonna kill myself by jumping off the Forest Hill Bridge, but was saved, and then began this journey into a whole whole 'nother direction, and had been, was in Placer County, where I live now, and was involved with, the county services, which were fantastic, and somebody one day said, "Well, you should tell your story." And I'm like, "What? What what story would that be?"
Mm,
Like, 'cause I'm not feeling really good right now. Yeah, my life is saved, but it just like my whole life had come undone. And they said, "Well, you should tell your story about, mental illness and, this and that." And I'm like, "Good gracious, why would I do that? That's stupid." And they said, "They'll pay you $100." I'm like, "Okay, done. I'm ready." And I so wish every time I tell that story, I so wish it was more altruistic, but it wasn't.
mhm.
So
Well, that's your
I
truth. I
it
mean, that's your
was.
truth.
So the county, and they probably still do, have what they call a speakers bureau, and they have people with like me with lived experience and we go out to tell. So ultimately, I started to tell these stories, and the universe would give me ideas about, well, tell a story about a cow, but apply it to mental health, which may seem like a stretch, but you could do it. And then ran into representatives at NAMI, Diane Mintz, my favorite of all, um, I just adore her, and then Doug and others, and ultimately just one thing led to a beautiful to another.
Mhm.
So it
I
wasn't
love that
anything planned, that's for sure.
well, it seems like a lot of things in life kind of fall into our lap, and it's up to us to respond to
Right?
it, and it seems like you've just kept meeting those challenges and meeting those challenges. And I'm wondering, as we think about the people who are going to be attending the conference, there are going to be plenty of people that are not mental health practitioners, that are everyday folks that you
Mhm.
see at the grocery
Yep.
store or what have you, at the local concert in the park and whatnot, who just care and want to learn more. And what would be your message to them about your workshop that would pertain to them? What is maybe one little nugget or takeaway that they have to look forward to that they can apply, even though they may not have any mental health background or experience, but they just have a caring heart and maybe have some lived experience that's prompted them to come to the conference and get more involved.
So I would say 2 things. One, the foundation is gonna be all about my fervent belief that connection, which is this right here, this experience where 2 souls feel seen, heard, and valued. Connection creates this thing called hope, and in my humble opinion, hope is the single most important thing. You can't live without hope. You can live without love. You can live without faith. You can live without lots of other things. You cannot live without hope, and connection will always create hope. And And one other thing in terms of like, okay, that's kind of, that's kind of good. So the other thing that I've been passionate about is I feel like, I'll just say it. We spend a lot of time educating people on signs to be mindful of a soul who might be in danger. My only challenge with that is we never read a story in the paper that says a particular soul lost their fight to suicide and they passed along, but we weren't surprised because we saw it coming. We never read
Mm,
that. Never.
mhm,
And yet we continue down the saying, or here are the signs. But what I say is the signs aren't there. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not. I'm not. Don't make sense of it. But just that's the reality. So what can you do? And so what I've come up with is just because you didn't see the sign doesn't mean you have to miss the sign.
hmm,
And what I'm suggesting is there's 4 questions to ask somebody they're not closed ended. They're open ended. They're
mhm,
not invasive. They're more exploratory and used for connection. And here's probably the most important part
mhm,
is when you ask those questions to a person, anybody in your life, because you're not going to see the sign. You're
mhm,
not going to see it.
mhm,
So anybody in your life, just start with your immediate circle. When you ask those questions? When they're feeling good, not when,
mm,
not when they're feeling bad. Because
mm,
we're not going to talk to you when we feel bad. Not
mm,
because we want to hurt you. Because
mhm,
the other part to understand this is I wasn't going to kill myself because of what I was thinking. And I wasn't going to kill myself because of what I was feeling. I was going to kill myself because of what I believed. That's
mm,
the foundation of human action. That's the foundation of thought. And yet we don't talk enough about that.
mm,
So if I'm in this depressed space thinking you're going to be so much better off without me, you think, well, that's not true. Well, how long did the world think the world was flat? Truth and belief are not the same thing most of the time. So you just accept what is true, what the soul believes, then ask them these 4 simple questions when they feel their best. Not
mm,
happy, because they may never feel happy.
yes.
So it's just a different approach that I think,
Interesting.
yeah, it's different.
One of the things that I like about it is that we're not just checking on people when we know they'll naturally be down, right? So, for
Exactly.
example, for me, my husband passed away in 2019 suddenly, not from COVID, just he got sick and passed away. And most people that know me know that I have a lot of support from family, friends, others. I have a pretty wide network, and so I'm one of those people that my cousin likes to call the strong friend, the one that
Mm,
everybody calls when they're going through something, the one that is you can call at 3 in the morning and they'll be there for you kind of thing. And it was so strange to be in a position where I needed a strong friend. I
mm,
couldn't be that strong friend for myself in that moment. And it was a very weird and uncomfortable place to be, and it was very hard to explain to people how I was feeling. Um, People asked me that, "How are you feeling?" or "How are you doing?" It was really hard to explain at that time, but kind of relating to what you're saying, a year before, 2 years before, I was in a position where a really good opportunity happened for me, and I was joyous about it, and I was talking to friends about it, and I said, oftentimes I live at the intersection of excitement and being terrified because I love a challenge and I wanna do new things, but I am sometimes scared of failure and rejection, so I'm kinda just right there on the border. And it was that conversation that prompted one of my friends to reach out to me long before this happened because she saw me just working. I'm a recovering workaholic, I like to say, because I would work and work and work a lot. And she was seeing how that was impacting me. And so she started asking me, even when the events I was planning were going well, how are you? Like, how are you? It's
mm,
great that your event was wonderful. But how are you doing? Not just the how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? It wasn't the casual. It was really the deeper question of no, how are you really? Like, when the lights are off and the event is over and you go home, like, how are you really?
exactly.
And I appreciated that so much because so few people asked me, because
Yep.
people assume that I was okay. So I love the idea of checking in with people throughout. your experiences with them.
Yeah.
When they're up, when they're down, don't just assume because they have a smile on their face that all is well. To take the time to ask those extra questions, and hopefully some of the questions, open-ended questions that you have will be extra tools in people's toolbox to be able to talk to those friends and family members where it may be uncomfortable to even contemplate that this person may not be okay, especially someone that's a strong friend that is usually okay and that you've maybe never seen in a light where they were down. Might be scary for someone if that's their main support person. So I love the idea of just normalizing the
Hmm.
conversation about mental health and not waiting until a catastrophe or a trauma happens to check up on people. I really appreciate that approach.
Yeah, I'm just, and I give credit to, a power greater than myself to come up, with life preservation. And, if you didn't see the sign, it doesn't mean you have to miss the sign. These are ideas far, far, far greater than me. And I think that the time has come to put them forth for people to utilize them, because I do think there will be we will trying to think of a good word, will embrace
Mhm.
somebody who might be at the literal edge simply by a slightly different change, just a slightly different approach.
So, as we close our time today, if there are people out there that are contemplating whether they want to come to the conference or not, is it really for them? What would this conference have to offer them, especially as it relates to what you have to share and the messages that we've talked about today? What do you think is a main takeaway that you would like people to know if they come to the conference? What can they expect?
Well, NAMI in general is just one of the most amazing organizations literally in the world. When you think about the National Alliance for Mental Illness, that there's a whole group of committed souls who are paid far less than they deserve, and so many do it on a volunteer basis to create headway in understanding and treatment and acceptance and all these different things. Even if you were just on the periphery, didn't know anybody with mental illness, didn't have mental illness yourself, I would still suggest coming, because you will run into somebody that has mental illness. We are all around you. And almost none of us are wearing scarlet letters, at least that you see. We may see them from our own shame and self-disgust and these other things, but you won't see them. And at the core of every single speaker's presentation is going to be the singular, in my estimation, the singular desire to enhance understanding. And in the end, if we understand each other better, like, wow, that would on the one end gives us the ability to just say, I don't agree, but God love you. I appreciate your perspective. Thank you. And in the best case, like this soul and I right now, who
Mhm.
I adore,
Mhm.
can be even further connected. So
Yes.
you can't lose. It would well be worth your time.
All right, everyone. You heard it. Come get connected, come get educated, come get understanding, and come have some fun with us as well. We're here to build out your professional network as well as to inspire and uplift you each and every day. We thank you so much, David, for joining us. That concludes our time for this segment. We look forward to seeing you in the next. Until then, everyone, remember, hope starts with us. Have a great day.